They used to say, they were on the private person, did they? She did a great job. Yeah, it was a big job. I painted the whole downstairs, except for like that. There you go. Yeah, I know, but the thing was, I was supposed to have my cleaners were supposed to come on Monday, and they changed their schedule. So, no, it's a good thing, because I've got company on Thanksgiving, and I wanted it delayed anyway, so they were here. What are y'all gonna do?
The date.
My daughter's baby's mother, father.
Like to print it out. I think she could do a bond. Are you talking about the last one?
He made her on the so. In the airlines for like 40 years or something, and they made us like planes. It's like, that's a plane that starts on that. So, he's an ace, and she, yeah. Yeah. Well, she, they like.
As a private club.
They had a good time. They go, yeah, because, no, he, the father and mother not living, so that's where they keep their. That's when they use it.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the November 19th, 2024 meeting of the City of Dunwoody Planning Commission. First order of business for the night is roll call. Please, starting by my left.
Debbie Gordon.
Jackie Edmondson.
Alex Wallach.
And I'm Thomas O'Brien. Next order of business is approval of the October 8th, 2024 minutes. Anybody have any thoughts about that, or is there anybody ready to form a motion on that?
I'd like to motion to approve the minutes from October 8th, 2024.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes from October 8th, 2024. Is there a second at this time?
Second.
Hearing a motion and a second, is there any debate? All in favor of approving the motion, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign, and the motion carries unanimously. All right, do we have any organizational or procedural items that we need to take up?
I have one item, again, in the interest of updating you on the outcomes of the city council decisions for items you had seen previously. City council has approved the special land use permit for the Starbucks drive-through on Perimeter Center West. Essentially, as you had seen it, just Commissioner Shin had asked for some changes to the pedestrian access to the store from the street, and those changes were made as she had recommended them, where, if you remember, the walkway going more diagonal previously, it's now going at a perpendicular angle at the cost of 3 surface parking spaces.
Excellent, good news. All right, thank you for that. All right, at this time, we're going to take up RZ 24-02. Request to rezone 2480, 2526 Mount Vernon Road and 2495 Jet Ferry Road from NS Neighborhood Shopping to C1 Local Commercial. At this time, we would be happy to hear from staff or applicant or both.
Good evening. So we're revisiting this evening the project RZ 24-02 for 2480, 2526 Mount Vernon and 2495 Jet Ferry. So just a quick summary, they are requesting a rezoning from neighborhood shopping to the local commercial zoning district. And the purpose of this is to increase the number of allowed uses within the existing shopping center. Again, this is the shopping center that's at the confluence of Dunwoody Club Drive, Mount Vernon Road, and Jet Ferry Road. And they are not proposing to change the existing layout of the shopping center, aside from some parking lot improvements, but the buildings are going to remain the same. So at the last meeting, there was some discussion regarding the newly allowed uses, and based on feedback from that meeting, we've come up with a different way to present the information, one that hopefully makes a little bit more sense and is a little bit more concise. And there have also been some additional restrictions placed on those uses based on feedback from the commission. And these are all changes that were proposed by branch properties. And so essentially the rezoning would allow what's currently allowed in the neighborhood shopping district with the additional uses that are listed here, and specifically limiting schools and special events facilities to a maximum 5,000 square feet of floor area. And those changes were based on concerns around traffic and you know, the volume of those types of uses. And so to restrict that, they've put the floor area restriction. Overall, there haven't been any other significant changes besides rewording the conditions to be more clear and concise, and with the floor area restriction. So other than that, it is remaining the same from last time. And again, this is the changes that were proposed by branch, and staff is recommending approval as we did last time, subject to these conditions listed here. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, will we be hearing from the applicant as well? Okay.
Thank you. Laurel David with the Galloway Law Group, 4062 Peachtree Road. I can't remember if I'm supposed to tell you my address for the record or not. We want to thank staff for helping us work through these changes to the conditions to address the concerns that were presented at the last meeting. We also have been able to determine some limitation in the hours of that building. We know that that's been a concern that was expressed not only some various folks at the last meeting, but also as we were waiting for this meeting to convene. So we're willing to restrict the hours of that building between Monday and Thursday to 11 p.m. and Friday, Saturday, and Sunday till 12 p.m. And we can work with staff to memorialize that in the zoning conditions.
Quick question. Do you mean 12 a.m.? Are we talking midnight?
Oh, 12 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah,
you're
just
right.
want to
Thank
make
you.
sure. Okay.
Appreciate that. I always get those confused. 12 midnight. Weekend is Friday through Sunday at midnight. And then Monday through Thursday, 11 p.m.
I interrupted you. I didn't know if there was more. I apologize.
No, I'm fine. I think I've addressed everything. And obviously, if there's anything expressed in comments with others, I'd like the opportunity to address them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the things we'd like to do, and this is kind of a point of procedure, and I'd like to put this to the commission. Obviously, there are a lot of folks here that have feelings one way or the other, and I want to make sure we hear what they have to say. Again, I think it's extremely important that we hear concerns and take them into under advisement as we make our decision. So while there is not a formal occasion for public comment, I think we could vote to open for additional comment. And so to that end, may I have a motion, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we open the floor for additional comment for a total of 10 minutes for and 10 minutes against.
Heard a motion to open for additional comment, 10 for and 10 against. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a second from Commissioner Gordon. Hearing a motion and a second, is there any debate or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of granting that motion, raise your hand. All opposed, like sign. It carries unanimously. So we're going to have some discussion. And so what I would do, I've got a couple of cards up here. Neither of them actually indicate for or against, which kind of seems very much in keeping with what we heard last time, which is to say uncertainty. And I want to make sure we hear everybody. That's the bottom line. You're here to be heard. And so we want to make sure you hear. I'm going to start with the fours. And if you don't know what you are, feel free to speak as a four, but just make us aware of what your concerns and questions are. Let's make them heard. That's the heart of this. So first comment, I'm going to go ahead. Yes.
Chairman, just a quick question for commission comment or question before or after that.
Yeah, we're going to handle that after.
Okay.
Yeah. First comment from Mr. Shortle, if you'd care to come forward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for all of you serving. It'd be good to see you again. My comments, I live 2011 Woodland Way, Dunwoody, Georgia. Sorry about that. But I've got three things I want to talk about. Number one is, I'm big on definitions and personal improvement services. I'm not too sure that's what that means. And I'm not too sure any of us know exactly what it means, but it's kind of like eating a deluxe sandwich. I'll have a deluxe sandwich. And then when you get it, you say, I don't think this is what I ordered. So clarification on that, I think would be good. And it has to probably come from our staff in the city. Number two is a club or lodge private. I come from the country and private places are sometimes questionable. So, I guess somewhere probably an ordinance that says you can't do this and you can't do that. Maybe that would come under this. And my last thing is the hours of operation. Laura just mentioned the 11 and 12. I think that's probably a little late because you're right in the middle of a residential neighborhood and it's according to what you're going to put in there. If it's an indoor tennis facility, I don't imagine it'll be too noisy. But if it's something else, you know, a bar with music and things like that, it's during the week, 11 o'clock is too late, in my opinion. I'd look more like a 10 p.m. curfew on that. On the weekends, maybe 11 o'clock. So those are my points. And again, thank you very much for serving the citizens of Dunwoody. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Next name on the list that I have, apologize if I don't read this clearly. There's one letter that's a mystery. Is it Gerald McCarley or McCurley?
Thank you. I don't want to repeat what Denny said, but I agree with him as to the hours of operation. I was glad to see that the plaintiff did address that, but I think 11 o'clock on weekends would be late enough for us. We have residential communities all around that facility, and I think we should cut it off at 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Got a lot of folks here tonight. Is there anybody else interested? We've got it covered as for or against, but we want to hear everybody. So is there anybody else who wants to share something that they want us to hear as we figure out how best to handle this? Don't everybody rush up all at once now. Okay. Well, then I think we'll go ahead, hearing no additional comment, we'll go ahead and close the additional comment period and open it up for discussion and questions from the commission. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to go ahead and start at my left, Commissioner Gordon. Want you to ask whatever questions you want that'll help us make the best decision we possibly can.
Okay, my first question is, does the 5,000 square feet building come attached with it a capacity, a number of people?
So capacity is typically determined by the building code maximums. We don't typically set capacity maximums as part of zoning. But it would be limited by the fact that it's only 5,000 square feet.
Okay. Thanks. And one of the things that will be allowed is a private club. Are there any restrictions on what type of club?
So I have the private club definition. And the private club is the examples that are included in the code are country clubs and fraternal organizations. And it specifically excludes any adult entertainment establishments or adult service facilities.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Commissioner Edmondson.
Thank you. I just had two questions. Do we have the definition for the personal improvement service as well?
Yes, I have that. It's part of the zoning code. And it's under our commercial use category. So the definition for personal improvements is it includes hair salons, barbershops, beauty shops, nail salons, massage establishments, esthetician services, yoga or dance studios, etc. And personal improvement services are already allowed under the current zoning. So that would not be changing with this rezoning.
Great, thank you so much. I think my second question was, or maybe I don't know, I guess it's a question / comment is, I am trying to reconcile the limitation of hours for the buildings with the current Dunwoody noise ordinance to make sure that they're aligned. Because I think it's important for us to not cause any confusion there. And I just want to make sure that we have those, are those aligned with what the Dunwoody noise ordinances are?
So the noise ordinance is going to be applicable regardless of the hours of operation. And so in my mind, they are reconciled. So if at any point at any hour they're violating the noise ordinance, they would be, subject to the law in that regard.
Right.
And, additionally, the shopping center across the street is not under any restrictions on the hours of operation. Like I said, that the noise is always going to be controlled by the noise ordinance.
Got it.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you so much. That's it for me.
Thank you. Commissioner Wallach.
I don't really think I have anything, Mr. Chairman.
I've got a couple of additional questions. I'd like to speak with staff on this really quickly, because again, I want to torture some of these definitions a little bit. And I'm going to apologize for doing so, but when I heard you say the private club, let me just club or lodge private, I believe is how it's classed. No adult entertainment or adult service. Can you explain what an adult service is? Because then I heard when you talked about personal improvement, I saw the massage facility. And so I have some concern depending on how that's classified. Can you give me a little bit of insight there?
Sure. Let me pull up the code really quickly. So would you like me to review the private club definition in further detail, or did you want the definition?
Well, you specifically said there was no adult entertainment, which I think we've got a pretty good handle on what that is, or adult services.
Mhm.
What is an adult service?
That's all following under the same sort of a adult category that you know it when you see it type of facility. And so that's all restricted under another category, and it's not permitted in this area.
But a massage facility would
Ye-
be permitted under
yeah, so-
personal improvement.
Yeah, massages are already allowed in the NS zoning, and massages are not considered adult entertainment. There's a lot of restrictions. It's actually in another section of the code. It's regulated under like business guidelines essentially that restrict massage parlors to make sure that they are falling under they're not falling into an adult service category. So essentially regulating, they have to be wearing certain types of clothing, they have to be covered up in a certain way, they have to operate in a certain way, and that's all regulated through the business license process. But it's something that's already allowed in NS, so that's not changing.
Okay, okay. And then with regard to the noise ordinance, refresh us on what the specific hours are, if you please.
Yes, let me pull that up specifically. Sorry, I have to find the specific session. Give me 1 second. So this is chapter 18 of our ordinance. And so for anything like musical instruments, those are going to be prohibited between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 p.m. on weekdays, and between the hours of 12 a.m. and 7 a.m. on weekends. And so essentially the noise can't be traveling beyond your property line. And that includes, that's for like loudspeakers, but also things like yelling and shouting, those types of noises.
Okay, so the hours that we heard applicant propose kind of
hours.
keep directly with the noise ordinance. Is that what I'm hearing?
Correct. Mhm. But regardless of the hours of operation, everyone is subject to these limitations on noise.
Okay, but yeah, I guess what I'm trying to understand is what would it be like to live next to somebody that took every bit of advantage of the noise ordinance that they could? And I want to make sure that I think on that. Okay, now there was, I think until recently, or maybe it's still there, I don't know. In that facility, there was O'Brien's Bar, right? Serving bar and food. O'Brien's, of course, for the record, was not spelled properly. But with that said, do we have a sense of what their hours were? Were there any complaints? Were there any issues? Do we know what hours they were restricted to or what they chose to?
I don't have record of the hours. I would have to look that up specifically. And regarding any complaints, again, I would have to look into our system. Thank you.
I didn't hear that. May
He
I?
said that they were open till 2 a.m.
Okay, are we aware of any complaints? I'm
I'm-
seeing a nod or a
I'm-
shake of the head behind you from Richard.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. So there is some precedent for late night activities in the form of alcohol as well. Okay. All right, does anybody have any additional questions? All right, if we don't have any additional questions, then I think it. Okay, so we're gonna reopen it for discussion. We're gonna need a motion for that.
Motion to reopen. We've used 1:44 so far.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second? Motion and a second? All right, all in favor? Opposed? All right, that carries. Yes, ma'am, please come up, introduce yourself and tell us what's on your mind.
My name is Jane Thompson, and I have lived in Dunwoody for 45 years. And coming in tonight and seeing this list, who has control over this? Does Branch have control of this? Or are we just venting our opinions of what's going on and we turn it over and they rent to ever who? Or there's somebody on this list that is a little questionable, or because they're on the list, are they optional to be accepted?
I'm sorry,
Who has the final word on who is going to come into the shopping center?
ultimately, the final word will be established by council as an applicant appears and files for whatever they wish. So ultimately, it's going to be between an applicant making appeal to council. What we're here to do is to provide council with some insight and some guidelines as to what we believe, based on what we've heard, that the populace wants. And so our role in this is rather advisory at best, but it's for council, it's a first crack at what they're likely to hear from the public
Okay,
about these changes that are being
Okay.
proposed.
I was just wondering if it was strictly Branch, since they have put out this list, if they are in total control of it, or whether it is a two-way street, so to speak.
Well, it would be my understanding is it would be the city setting forth rules and then the owner of the property attempting to bring businesses that comply with those rules and seeking permission therefore.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll get that in just a sec. All right, is there any additional public comment or public question now that we've reopened it? I definitely want to hear everybody that's got something to ask or something to say. All right. Anybody before we close it? I'm not going to reopen it again. All right. Thank you, everybody. I do understand that before we have a motion, there may be some additional commission questions and comment springing forth from this. So please, Commissioner Edmondson.
I just wanted to ask if we could get a quick refresher on the main change, right? Because I'm looking at this and there were a few that you said, Madeline, that were, this is already included in the way it's zoned now. Can you just give us a quick refresher on that? That would be very, very helpful.
Yeah, so the main changes, I think maybe the easiest way to visualize this is I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And you guys are also able to pull this up on your laptop. It'll be the permitted uses list. So I created this list as a way to maybe better visualize the allowed uses for the property currently versus the allowed uses that this rezoning would open the property up to. So, and everyone has the copy of this list on the paper, But what's highlighted in green is what's allowed there currently in the neighborhood shopping district. This isn't a complete list of all of the different types of uses in Dunwoody. But just for sake of conciseness, I just wanted to include the allowed uses because that's what's permitted. Anything not on this list is automatically prohibited. And all of the uses listed on this list are defined by our zoning ordinance and our code. And so that's what we would use when determining, does this business meet the definition of this use listed here. So all of the green is what's already allowed. So that's including things like daycares and places of worship, restaurants, eating establishments. The additionally allowed uses are in yellow, and specifically, and this list is essentially very similar, or essentially the same as what was presented last time. It's just presented in a different format. With the caveat that Branch has agreed to limit the floor area for schools and special events facilities to 5,000 square feet. So that's the main change between what was presented last time and what was presented this time. And then we've also just changed how the condition is worded, again, to make it clearer and more concise. And then additionally, Branch has this evening expressed that they are willing to limit the hours of operation. And so we would add that as a condition, and you could make that as part of your recommendation this evening, approved, subject to adding a condition about the hours, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions from commission? And then if there are, great, let's get them out there. And if not, then let's share some thoughts and see if we can't form a motion. Are there any additional questions? Okay. All right, so when last we met, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, but when last we met, it seemed once again that a lot of the concern was due to some of the uncertainty. And I feel like a respectable amount, if not all of that uncertainty, as much as can be dealt with, has been dealt with. In particular, with regard to some of the definitions that we've been looking for with regard to some of these proposed uses. However, I might put forward to your for your consideration, looking at these hours and taking public comment into effect when forming that motion, because I think a motion without hours included on it would be a mistake. But it is up to us what we think the hours should be. And certainly I think our opinion should be informed by everything that we've heard. So what do you all think on that? And is there somebody beginning to form thoughts, or well, ultimately form a motion, but let's hold off on that. Let's share the thoughts.
It sounds reasonable to me to keep it in line with the noise ordinance. So 11 and midnight.
Particularly in light of the fact that we were explained that that the noise is restricted to within the property, that it's not, that you're not going to hear it outside the property anyway, so.
During the restricted hours.
Mhm.
So from 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday morning, a live band could play. Is that correct?
That's not the way I understood it.
The way I understood it is that restrictions were between 12 a.m. and 7 a.m. But after 7 a.m., may I have somebody from staff come up and answer a question about the noise ordinance, please?
Could you repeat your question, Chairman?
So, okay, there's an event at this facility, and a live band appears at 7:30 a.m. in the morning. Would that offend the noise ordinance as it's currently written?
No.
Okay. Okay. I think that's what folks are asking us to think about.
It's on the street.
Ms. David?
Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to comment. What we are proposing is outside the noise ordinance. In fact, what is allowed today is covered by the noise ordinance. I can't imagine anybody would want to have a band playing at 7:30 in the morning.
I agree.
But the reason for restricting the hours had more to do with trying to address the concern that was expressed by some members of the neighborhood about people congregating on the property, outside while the business was still open. So if we had, since business would actually be closed, then they would have to leave. They can't be hanging out in the parking lot. And even if they were, they would still be covered by the noise ordinance.
And your proposal was Monday through Thursday, 11 PM, Friday through Sunday at midnight?
Midnight, yes.
Okay, okay. All right, having heard that, does that change anybody's tenor? Is there anything we need to talk about, or is there somebody ready to form a motion? Anybody want to take a swing at a motion?
I'm gonna go.
Okay, make sure you include the staff recommendations in addition to whatever else. You don't need to read them all, just pursuant to staff recommendations, yes.
I had that much down. All right, I will make a motion to approve RZ 2402, the request to rezone 2480, 2526 Mount Vernon Road and 2495 Jet Ferry Road from NS to C1 pursuant to staff conditions. Additionally, pursuant to the time limitation of hours that is in concert with the current Dunwoody noise ordinance.
Can we take the noise ordinance out? I'm gonna get you just to list the hours because we don't want to necessarily conflate the two.
Yeah, sure. So
Friendly amendment.
I will amend it here and say with the additional condition of hours being Monday, Thursday until 11 PM and Friday, Saturday, Sunday till 12 AM.
All right, I'm going to repeat your motion back to you before we seek a second. Commissioner Edmondson moved to approve RZ 24-02, subject to staff conditions with additional time limitations to include non-opening hours beyond on Sunday through Thursday beyond 11 PM and Friday through Sunday to 12 AM. Did I? repeat that
Correct,
correctly?
thank you.
All right, having heard that motion, is there a second?
I second.
All right, Commissioner Gordon seconds it. We've got a motion, we've got a second. Is there any debate or discussion? Anyone?
The only thing I'm wondering is whether it might make the neighboring residents happier if they were not open until midnight on Sunday evening. People are getting ready for a work week, etc. And that might be a situation. And this is just a discussion here, whereby instead of making it open late on Sunday night, that it might be more considerate of the neighborhood to have the Sunday nights until 11.
Well, I think that's some reasonable guidance. Now, at this time, depending on what everybody thinks, we already have a motion and a second, and we've got to vote on this. So if that resonates with you, and if that's something you'd want to support, then when we vote on this motion, we will need to vote accordingly. And then if it does not pass, we will need to reform a motion more reflective of what everybody's feeling, if that's the case. So with that said, we're on the subject of the motion and second that have been made. Is there any other debate or discussion after having heard that? All right, Hearing and seeing none, at this time, it's appropriate to take a vote. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. All opposed, like sign. The motion fails unanimously. So at this time, we're kind of back at the starting point. So with that said, is there anybody who would care to form a motion?
Yes, I'd like to reiterate the prior motion in its entirety with the exception of changing the open hours for Sunday evenings to 11 p.m. so that it is Sunday through Thursday till 11 and Friday and Saturday until midnight.
All right, Commissioner Wallach, I'm going to read that back to you just to make sure I'm stating it correctly, and then we will seek a second. Commissioner Wallach has moved to approve RZ 24-02, subject to staff limitations, with additional time limitations of 11 p.m. closure on Sunday through Thursday, Friday and Saturday at midnight. Did I restate that correctly?
You did.
All right, having heard that motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, Commissioner Gordon seconds. So we've modified the time a little bit on this time around. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing none at this time, it's appropriate to vote. All in favor of the motion that's been seconded, raise your hands. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, everybody. All right. With that said, is there any new business for us to take up? Is there any other business for us to address? Is there any public comment at this time? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Mary Reesmeyer and I live at 2020 Woodland Way. And I want to thank the council for listening to the neighborhood and everything that's going on. And we wish you the best with getting this settled and we get a permanent tenant in there for longer than 4 or 5 years.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Reesmeyer. Any other comment at this time? All right, at this time, is there any commission comment? Nobody has anything to say additionally. I think it's all been said. So with all that said, I want to thank everybody for attending. Thank you for your comments, and we stand adjourned. As a drummer, I'm sorry.